Well, hello, everyone. This is Julie Teal with the Leadership and Retention Lab and Teal Talent Strategy. And I am so delighted to have Michelle Haw with me today, co-founder of Early Engage and Early HR. So thank you for being here today, Michelle.
Thank you,
Uh,
Julie. It's so good to
yes,
see you.
you too, you too. And, I was thinking a bit as we were prepping for this and talking through this a little bit about how we met. And I think it's a good example of the power of LinkedIn. I think sometimes LinkedIn gets a little bit of a bad rap, that it's all marketing, and certainly it's there for marketing, but done right, it builds relationships. I
Yeah.
mean, social media is supposed to be social. And the way we met is, I was posting about retention, you were posting about retention. We started to kind of see each other's posts and comment, and then we got off the site and started to have a conversation on the side, and found out that you were coming to Minnesota, and we ended up having lunch in person as a result. And then that kind of opened up additional conversations. So I just love that story and how we got
Yeah,
connected.
I know. And I remember when we met, we just had so much to talk about. I think
Yes,
we went way beyond our scheduled time.
we
And
did. We did.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And then you came to Texas and we got
Uh-huh.
to reconvene here. And so, yeah, it's been really wonderful to when you find people that you have so much in common with professionally, but we've also
Yes.
found out we have a lot personally too. So it's been super
Absolutely. And before we went live, we were just talking about our kids and spring break and college and all of that. So very fun. And so again, thank you so much for joining the show today. And I'm really excited to bring this topic to our small business owners. We're talking about employee engagement, and it's one of those topics that I think smaller businesses don't necessarily like know what to think when you say that. What is employee engagement? So when small business leaders hear employee engagement, um, what do they usually assume it requires? I know you're in the middle of this business all the time. So talk to me a little bit about how that happens, a little bit about what her early engage and how it's been working, how you work with small businesses.
Yeah, so when we think about sometimes people think engagement is like this, I don't know, sort of abstract thing, but it's really
Mhm.
just sort of the level of commitment that somebody has, or if you think about, effort when individual is choosing, how much effort they're putting into their roles. Some of it's discretionary, do I want to just sort of be status quo and kind of do the bare
Mhm.
minimum, or do I really want to try to help succeed, help this organization succeed? And really a lot of that is based on their level of engagement. So when I think of engagement, I think
Mhm.
of, how connected people are, not just with
Sure.
the organization, but with each other. How much are they developing? Because we know innately people want to be adding value and learning and growing and developing. And so how are they growing?
Mhm.
And then how are they building relationships and connecting with one another, and driving that inclusiveness, but also genuine relationships that
Sure.
come from things like regular feedback,
Mhm.
uh, activities, things that bring people together.
Absolutely. And why don't you give us a little bit about your business? Because I know you've worked with, I know hundreds. Is it 1,000 maybe?
Yeah,
I mean, you've worked with
I'm not quite
hundreds.
a thousand yet, but
I know you've made an impact on a lot of small growing businesses and especially startups. I'd love to hear a little bit about, the work you've done with these small businesses and how that developed and led into this deep company focus on engagement, on improving engagement in smaller businesses.
yeah. So my background, just to give you a little, kind of give a little context here. My background initially was in corporate HR. I spent the
Sure.
first half of my career in corporate HR roles, both in small medium-sized
Sure.
companies as well as really big companies. And so I really brought that perspective to the work I've done this last decade with
Mhm.
really like early and growth stage companies.
Okay.
That's where those bigger numbers have come from, because I've been
Yeah.
sort of in the outsourced fractional role for about 10 years. And that's where I've worked with over 200
Wow.
really fast growing companies that are looking to really grow and scale. So it's been really those two
Mhm.
very different but overlapping experiences that have given us really the insight to see that companies that don't have something very consistent and almost programmatic
Mhm.
really, really struggle to drive engagement. I saw that when I was an internal HR director with a company of about 350 people. And
Sure.
I was trying to juggle it all on my own. I've also seen it when I've been an outsourced fractional HR leader for these
Mhm.
smaller organizations. And they've been really asking, like, even when we were providing more strategic solutions, they're like, we need to do more. How can you help us? And at the time when we
Sure.
first started early HR solutions, we were really geared towards compliance,
Mhm.
strategic planning, employee relations, things like that. But we
Sure.
kept finding there were pain points around um, bringing their teams together, especially, we
Mm.
launched during COVID, our business launched. And
Okay.
so we had
Yeah.
no time like
Why not? Yeah.
to
Exactly.
start a business. But we found that, those organizations were needing to connect with one another more than ever.
Mhm.
And they needed more consistent ways of engaging with their team members. And we also knew that in order to attract and retain top talent so that they could scale their business,
Sure.
needed a way to develop those individuals, to retain them and to keep them excited about the work they're doing. So it was about 6 months into our consulting work where we were like, we either have to find a solution and
Sure.
or we need to create it ourselves. And we really knew that
Okay.
we what we wanted to bring to our clients didn't exist. So we
Sure.
created it. And
Yes.
that's when Early Engage became a subscription-based solution. We also knew it needed to be cost effective because
Yes.
small and medium-sized businesses do not have huge budgets. They don't have huge
Mhm.
teams. And so we also knew that this wasn't going to be just a tech-only solution. Our first hire that we made was by bringing Samantha Coletti on our team. Who's
Okay.
still
Okay.
here. She's
Yes.
celebrating
She's
her 5 years.
fantastic.
Yeah, her
Yes.
5-year anniversary is April 1st. So that was the beginning of Early
Wow.
Engage. We
Mhm.
got Samantha on as our engagement concierge, and we wanted a really white glove, but still low cost solution
Sure.
for our client partners. We beta tested it, rolled it out for 6 months, and every one of our beta test clients became a subscriber. And many of those are still
Yes.
subscribers today, 5 years later.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And why do you think engagement becomes accidental instead of intentional in small organizations? Having worked with so many and seeing the need, I guess what do you think are the sources or the root cause of that struggle?
The biggest thing is we're just so busy,
Oh,
and we see that,
sure,
if you
sure.
think about even your personal life, if you don't make a plan to see friends or to, go visit a relative or whatever, if you don't put it on the calendar, chances are it may not happen.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the same exact philosophy when you look at an organization, and it's probably even magnified because you like when you're in the work setting, like not only do you have your plan of what you expect
Mhm.
to happen, but you're all of a sudden, putting fires out and there's different things
Sure,
to
sure.
it. And so the realities of organizations is that there's constant change, there's constant
Mhm.
activity and
Yep.
pivots, things that are very distracting. So we've really worked very hard with our clients to just develop consistent methodology around engagement so that it
Mhm.
does get on the calendar, it
Yeah.
happens. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It just has to happen. And there's lots of different ways that we help bring those connections together for
Mhm.
those organizations. It's not a cookie cutter solution. We really tailor
Sure.
things to fit the culture of that organization. But we know that if it gets scheduled, it
Yep. It
happens.
gets done. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
It becomes a good intention that went flat. So,
That's right. I mean, all of us, I mean, I live by my calendar. If it's on my calendar, it happens. If it's not, it doesn't. So I
yes.
appreciate that. And as I've talked to so many small business owners, the level of overwhelm is real. I mean, there is a very real and tangible level of overwhelm. They want to do right by their people. They're not sure how. And
They
so
do. They
again,
do
you're
want to do
stepping into
right.
that gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're stepping into that gap. Absolutely. Are there like 2 to 3 engagement practices that you consistently see make a real difference? I think you've alluded to a few in what you were talking about, but I really want to kind of hone in on a couple that are kind of like everybody would benefit from these few.
Yes. Yes. Again, sometimes, um, events or what have you sometimes
Yeah,
look performative, right? And what
sure.
we try to do instead of just doing something that looks like you're doing it just to do it and to check the box or do the LinkedIn post,
Mhm, mhm.
is to find a way that brings people together a little bit more authentically.
Sure,
So,
sure.
again, like back in the day when we were all in office, it was like, oh, it's Donut Wednesday or whatever, which is fine, right? Or the pizza
By the way,
party.
yeah. So
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not
yeah,
saying those are
yeah,
bad, right?
but yeah,
You don't necessarily learn about one another by just
sure,
sharing a slice of pizza with someone
sure,
else or
very
grabbing
true.
a donut. So, we help our clients have more authentic kinds of relationship, even if it's just a quick half hour. Maybe they
Yeah,
all do lunch. Maybe it's even remote. But maybe
mhm.
they play a fun game like Two Truths and a Lie, where they
Sure.
just start
So
to
fun.
learn, or you do a favorite things and you talk about some things that are your favorites, and you just start learning a
Yeah.
little bit more about each other. Um, Anything like that that starts to develop more authenticity in the relationship,
Mhm.
I believe can really, really help.
Yeah.
So we think of ways to get people together to connect. We also think about how can we help people grow. And
Mhm.
so that,
Yeah.
there's lots of organizations that say, we're going to help you develop your career. We want you to grow. But if they're not
Mhm.
actually providing meaningful opportunities to do
Mhm.
that, again, it usually goes by the wayside. And
Yep.
there's folks that are like, I'm not really growing and developing. So one of the things that we do is we help our
Mhm.
clients create opportunities to learn and develop, both
Okay.
professionally and in leadership capacities. And we have webinars, workshops, things, whatever you want to call it. But then the real magic happens when our clients take the time to then debrief the information. So, like,
Sure.
for example, last week we did an event for International Women's Day, and we interviewed
Wonderful.
a
Yeah.
very high level captain, a woman. Very few women are ever reached the level of captain. Um,
Sure.
Commercial airlines, and we interviewed her. And then,
Mhm.
I know even on my own team, we talked about it after. What were your
Sure.
takeaways? What really struck you? And so, like, next month, we have a facilitator who's going to talk about Brene Brown's new book called
Oh,
Strong.
fun. Okay.
And
Yes.
there's going to be some really amazing things that we'll learn about that book and how it dovetails into some of her other work. But then we're going to also give our clients a way to debrief that with their teams,
Okay.
and then think
Kind of like
about.
an after session type of conversation.
Yes,
Yeah.
because when you learn, it's like, okay, well, now how do we take that learning and how does it relate to us individually as well as our organization? So, when you have learning opportunities, but you pair it
Yeah.
with like a debrief or a conversation,
Yeah.
those are just really rich opportunities to develop relationships as well
Absolutely.
as elevate someone's learning and development. So
That's
those are
fantastic.
two fun things. And then, you know what? It's always important to have fun. So
Yeah.
we love to help organizations just think about ways to drive recognition and celebration and fun, because work is hard, life can
Mhm.
get really hard, and it's important to have those lighter moments as well. And so those are kind of three main things that we do. But on the more kind of
Mhm.
um, we also believe it's super important to have those ongoing feedback rhythms, uh,
Sure.
one-on-ones,
Mhm.
through regular feedback mechanisms. We do a lot of work with employee engagement surveys, and then we
Okay.
work
You
with
do surveys.
organizations.
I wanted to ask about that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we work to put action plans together based on that feedback. So those kinds of rhythms are
Okay.
also really critical. If you don't have that, you're not going to have the foundation that's
Sure.
necessary to have people realize that those other engagement activities or rhythms
Mhm.
are authentic. You've got to build the trust with
Mhm.
those on relationships.
Absolutely. So just to kind of the takeaways on that for me were connect in person or in some way that helps you get to know each other, not just pizza for pizza's sake, right? Like that's the
Exactly.
beyond the pizza. So there's that. There's learning opportunities and learning opportunities that include some sort of conversation within the team, whatever that is. So, and I
Yes.
imagine as I think about that, you do learn it's again a way to build a relationship. So you have
Yes.
that conversation afterwards. That makes it deeper, makes it that land not only the learning, but you're building the relationship too.
Yes.
I heard fun. You got to have fun. So finding ways to have fun and have that, have a good laugh together, even volunteer together. I've seen that. And then
Yes.
there's feedback. So anything that's got a feedback, consistency and feedback sound like another way to bring engagement to life. So, and
Yes.
then,
Tying in
yeah,
the recognition piece, which,
yeah,
if you are bringing people together, that is a time that you can,
sure.
really drive recognition that feels very authentic, whether
Hmm.
it's giving a shout out or just celebrating as a team, maybe a leader saying a few words, like, hey, this is why, not just saying like, we're going to celebrate this, but why are we celebrating it? What happened to lead us to this moment
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
are celebrating? And, giving very specific examples.
Hmm.
It takes it from looking performative to very authentic.
Yes, and talking about the impact. It's like, because we did this work, this is what happened. I mean, those types of things really drive it home about the impact of the organization and the team. Now, those are
Yeah.
all great ways to connect. I wanted to go a little deeper on surveys because I do think that is in some ways what people associate with engagement. To a lot of people, engagement equals survey.
Yes.
And so I think there are organizations that do surveys, there are organizations that don't. Can you talk a little bit about, it sounds like you're a big advocate for surveys. Talk about where that plays in and the benefit. What are the benefits to taking the time? Because there's usually a cost associated with it. Talk a little bit about where you see the benefits of
Yeah.
doing an engagement survey.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, when you say, absolutely, I'm an advocate of employee engagement surveys, but there's also a big but. I'm an
Okay. Yeah.
advocate
No, please. Yes.
and it's a part of a more holistic process. So, it
Okay.
can't be just about a survey. Um,
Sure.
it really has to, we have to think about all the different aspects about the feedback, the
Mhm.
recognition, the learning and development, the
Sure.
connection, the inclusion, all of those things. Now, a survey is just one methodology of getting
Mhm.
that important feedback. We find if you do it on a consistent basis, that alone will build some trust because
Sure.
uh, the employees are like, they care. This is something they do every
Sure.
single April or
Yeah,
every single November. Like,
exactly.
this is a rhythm
You're like,
that they,
"Where is it?" So, yeah.
yeah. And the other thing is that you have to share the results and you have to do something about them.
Mhm. Okay.
So I am not about doing a survey just to do a survey, because if
Sure.
you're not willing to share the results candidly and you're not going to, you know, follow up on those things
Mhm.
that are
Mhm.
cited as opportunities, I wouldn't even do it in the first place. So while I'm
Sure.
an advocate of it, I'm an advocate
Mhm.
of it when it's part of a holistic strategy and when it's you're giving you are giving feedback to the team on
Mhm.
what the results
Sure.
were. You're not trying to hide anything,
Mhm.
and you actually are doing something with those results, and you're communicating that you are moving some of these things forward.
Yeah, like, "You wanted this to change, here's what we're doing." And there has to be some acknowledgement, of what was heard and what's happening as a result. The
And it doesn't always mean that you're gonna do every single thing, you know,
Sure,
it's
sure.
impossible for organizations sometimes to do everything that people are
Mhm.
citing needs to happen. So our goal is always moving the needle, and that's what
Sure.
we
Yeah.
share with the team members too, that this isn't about perfection, it's about
Mhm.
moving the needle in a positive
Sure.
direction. The other thing that we share when we do these, I just did one last week for a client. We did a
Oh,
survey,
nice.
we
Okay.
met, we came to their all team meeting, we shared the results with
Okay.
the team. But one of the things I said to that team is to remember this is it's a we thing. It is not an
Yeah.
HR initiative. It is not the president or the CEO or the head of people. It is not their thing. It's our thing. And so having, if those scores and those things are going to be
Mhm.
improving and those outcomes are going to move in a positive direction, it really takes everybody. It takes
Mhm.
everybody to provide the feedback, to participate in
Sure.
these initiatives, to be willing to, be authentic and speak. If
Mhm.
you've got something to say, say it in the moment. Don't bottle it up and
Yeah,
then,
don't wait, yeah.
you know what I mean? It's how does everybody show up in the organization? That is what really drives that, moves that.
Mhm. And my experience too on building on that idea is you can't defer to the survey alone. You still gotta pay attention. Like,
Yes.
because if there's a team that's struggling, you don't necessarily need a survey to tell you that. If you're paying attention, and you don't wanna have the survey like, "Oh, we'll just wait till the survey." It's like if there's a problem area or area of concern, take action. Don't wait, don't ignore it, don't
Absolutely.
sidestep it. So those are the other things too I've seen as well, where I love a good survey, but you've got to make sure it's not it's got to be bringing about the right behavior, not just saying, well, we've got the survey data, we're good,
Yes.
so it's an ongoing effort, and I love that emphasis on it's an entire team responsibility to be improving engagement and understanding engagement along the way.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, making the most of your one-on-ones. I mean, one of the
yes.
things that we've actually trained teams on is not just managers how to give good feedback, but how do
Mhm.
individual contributors manage up? How do
Sure.
they make the most of their one-on-ones? How do they help to, move the needle themselves
Mhm.
and have agency over their development?
Sure.
So, it really, when you look at every single person in the organization, whether they have a title that
Sure.
indicates that they're a leader, or not. If you really think about it, every single one of us in an organization has leadership behaviors that we
Sure.
be displaying and or not displaying. And
Sure, or not. Yeah.
right. And the most successful organizations is when individuals feel like they are a leader, even if they don't have that title, and they are showing up in a way
Sure.
that drives those positive outcomes.
Yeah, no, great insight. And are there any like early warning signs that a manager or owner could be watching for that someone is starting to disengage? Is like what should people be looking for as far as kind of signs and symptoms?
Well, definitely if they're just really quiet, especially if they had at one point been
Okay.
more participatory. Um,
Sure,
if
sure.
there's a decrease in what we call psychological safety,
Okay.
that means that somebody is not feeling comfortable speaking up in a
Mhm.
group, sharing their
Yep,
ideas. Maybe they've been shot down publicly and they're embarrassed, or they are just checked out. So I would say that is something that if you find that you're in meetings and folks are just, if you say, "Hey, I'd love to hear
mhm.
your feedback," and it's dead silence, that could indicate there's an issue. And maybe that just means you need to have more of a one-on-one conversation. Maybe it is something they want to share, but they're not comfortable sharing it in front of
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
group. So you can never go wrong by having a really good listening session where you, as the leader, do less of the talking, more of the
okay.
listening, and just ask thoughtful questions
Sure.
to, really understand where people are at. I don't think, and again, that doesn't cost money. It just
No,
is
that's just
time
you
and
just show you care.
the
Yes.
intentionality. It's just doing it, making it a
Yeah.
priority.
Mhm. Yes, and you don't wanna wait. I mean, I think those are always a little uncomfortable conversations, but it's like, go have them. 'Em, don't wait, don't wait. If you have
Yes.
that gut feel that someone's not as involved or is starting to disengage, it is worth it to walk through that awkwardness, to have the conversation, to say, "Hey, things seem a little different. Like, talk to me. Let's talk about it."
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just say, "I care. If there's
Yeah.
something going on, I care. I wanna help you. I wanna be a part of the
Mhm.
solution, but I'm
Yes.
not a mind reader, and so I need you to
Yeah.
share with me what's happening here." And never make assumptions. That's one
Mhm.
of the things that we see so often is people making assumptions and thinking
Mhm.
it's one thing when it may be another, and,
Sure.
um, and when you make assumptions, a lot of bad things
Yeah,
can come
yeah,
from that, you know what I
yes,
mean? And
yeah.
so I just always encourage, have those conversations and, you know, ask those thoughtful questions and show that you care and have that follow-up. That can really go such a long way. I always say it's the little things that are really the big things.
Sure, sure, of course, that's great advice, that's great advice. If someone listening today did just one small thing this week to support engagement, what would you suggest? What's a
I say
good
my
go-do?
my thing around engagement is consistency. So,
Okay.
if there's something that you can do, if you can get a calendar and you can plug certain things in to make sure that you have some things built in and that
Mhm.
not just that they're scheduled, but they're communicated, that develops an enormous
Okay,
amount of
yeah,
trust. I'll tell you a funny story. So
okay.
I was doing an engagement survey for a company, and it was actually like a manufacturing facility,
Mhm.
and we did an engagement survey, and then we did some focus groups, and it was the funniest thing. One of the things that was really upset this group of manufacturing workers was
Mhm.
it was November when I was visiting there, and they
Uh-huh.
said, "We always have had a holiday party, and
Oh,
we don't know if we're even having one. No one's told us anything,
oh,
and it's
no.
November." And
Oh, no.
and they said, we've always for years knew in October when that party was. And when I went and shared
Oh,
that back with the CEO and the head of HR, they're like, what? They act like they could care less about this holiday party. I'm like,
oh,
you
so
know,
funny.
they trust me, even if they act like they don't care about it, the fact that it was not communicated and it was not on the calendar, they started spinning all of these truths like, well, maybe we're not having one. Well, maybe we can't afford one. Well, maybe nobody
Oh,
cared.
no.
They
Yes.
started spinning all of these realities that they thought there were realities that were completely untrue, but it
Uh-huh.
was because it hadn't been thought about and communicated in advance.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
you were just to
Wow.
one small thing, putting stuff on a calendar, it sounds silly, but even again, if you like, you think of your personal life, like let's
Yeah.
say your best friend says, I want to make sure I take you out for your birthday, even if it's 3 months away and you've got that date on the calendar
Yeah,
and you've got
so
something to look
yeah.
forward to, you're like, wow, they really care and
Yeah.
they prioritize this.
Uh-huh.
So if you were to do nothing else, go plug a few dates in the
I
calendar,
love
give
that.
people
Yes.
and then you can build up towards it like, "Hey,
Sure.
we're 2 months away from the such and such," or, we're in the countdown,
Yeah.
or there's a way to get some hype and
Mhm.
excitement around things that they don't have to be huge, but
Sure.
that consistency builds trust, and when everything looks like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and you're doing these random hodgepodge things, that's when people are like, "What is it they're trying to do here?" They see through it,
Yeah.
and that's where that distrust comes from, and they feel like this is just performative.
Sure, they're checking the box, they don't really care. So, no,
Exactly.
that is something very actionable that people can take away right after this conversation.
Yes.
Go plan at least one thing on the calendar and start sharing it with the team that
And why
something is
it's
coming.
important,
Yes, yes.
why you care, why it's important, why we're doing this.
Mhm,
And if
mhm.
they seem like they don't care so much, well, get them involved. I
Yeah,
always, when I was in organizations where we were big groups in person,
mhm.
I always had an executive sponsor.
Okay.
So that's another huge thing. Like if you do an activity, you've got to make sure your executives show up. And that's why planning
Exactly.
far in advance is so important because if it's all just your frontline people and nobody at a
Mhm.
higher level shows up, that's really awkward and it does not
Yeah,
work well for the
agreed.
organization. So I always make sure, you get the executives lined up so
Mhm,
that they're going to be there, they're going to show their support,
mhm.
and then, you make it happen and make the most of whatever that situation is, whether it's a
Sure.
learning opportunity, a gathering, whatever that may be. It does not have to be fancy, but it does need to be
Mhm.
well planned and well thought out.
Absolutely. Great advice. Great advice. So, as we're coming to a close, how can people learn more, get in contact with you, and learn more about Early Engage if they're interested to start kind of ramping up engagement within their organization?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So, the first thing is, as you know, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So, you've
Yes.
got my name here, Michelle Haw. Just look me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. And I'm always posting about different ideas on how to grow engagement,
Sure.
how to be more consistent. And then, obviously, we have a website, which is
Mhm.
earlyengage.com. And we've got a list of our upcoming events there. We're going to be launching a really cool cohort in June around AI and organization development.
Mhm.
And we've got
Wonderful.
all sorts of stuff on our website. So, LinkedIn, our website, those are two great ways to stay connected.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I encourage you to reach out to Michelle and her team. They offer great programs. I've gotten a chance to get behind the scenes and see, and they're great, great, a great organization to work with. So, and as far as Teal Talent Strategy, I can be found at tealtalentstrategy.com or on LinkedIn. This is also on the YouTube channel that we offer. So we're so glad to have everybody here, and love to stay in contact. And we'll be bringing another HR topic for small business owners here in the coming weeks. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie, for having me.